Look, will you be absolutely genuine with me? No deception, please. I want you to do something that expresses you without the slightest deception.
So it's our third episode, and before we kind of tap into everything and in-depthly discuss what the topic is, there are a couple things that I want to graze over and discuss. Last episode had a diverse and profound effect on a lot of our audience, and something that I think the three of us can agree upon is that our purpose is completely fulfilled within 2 episodes of what we were looking to accomplish in this podcast already. One thing that I definitely want to talk about are the amount of messages that we received, and collectively between the three of us from our social media accounts, there were anywhere from 500 to 800 messages that kind of poured in, all individual stories that we heard. There were people that were thanking us for unchambering bullets out of their gun, people that were calling their mothers for the first time within 15 years, people that were deciding to put the alcohol down, people that were talking to their kids for the first time within 10 years, people that decided to call a rehab center, people that decided to start sharing their own personal stories between friends, family, and loved ones of how they want to start healing in all different types of circumstances that they have been through, that they want to crawl out of the depths of hell and kind of learn of what's on the other side of that pain. The one thing that I think saddened me, which I think my 2 guys here will agree with, is it seems that we're in this environment now where a lot of these men have opened and swung this door open and are living in this world of self-resentment and self-loathing and self-degradation and depression. And they all feel, if you 2 will agree with, after looking at all the messages and everything that kind of came through, was that they feel there's no way out. And I think after my episode last week, there is proof that there's light on the other side and that through the darkness, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And, you know, there's a quote from Ben Franklin, which I just saw the other day, and it says, most men die at the age of 30, but aren't buried until they're 80. And we all know that pain is an inescapable fundamental reality, and it seems that a lot of this pain has led to this path of nihilism and hopelessness that feels inescapable. But I can tell you, with what you're going to hear today, Mike is a living, breathing embodiment of, regardless of pain being an inescapable fundamental reality, love and hope will absolutely overshine that pain. And Taylor and I are both fortunate to sit next to this guy and be able to pick apart his brain and learn about his story. And a lot of people have asked me, do you guys plan what you're going to talk about? Do you guys know the questions that you're going to talk about? And the answer is no. We know that we're going to discuss Mike's story today. Mike has no clue what I'm going to ask him. He has no clue what Taylor's going to ask him, and vice versa when we have these conversations. We don't know anything that's going to come out of the other person's mouth while we're all speaking. So before I tap into Mike, there's one question that I want to ask Taylor, and the reason why I'm asking Taylor this is because thousands of people know who you are. And after last episode, they really got to kind of get an inkling of how your mind works and how you break things down and what goes through your mind when you're sitting next to 2 people like Mike and I. So what I want to know is, when you're sitting next to us in this live podcast and you hear our stories and you hear the things that we're saying, is there a difference of feeling and emotion when you're then home rewatching it? So, like, for example, rather than having a subjective point of view where you're immersed into it, you have to think about what we're saying, listen to what we're saying, ask the right questions. When you're home and you're acting like the audience and you're able to pull yourself out of the equation now and just listen objectively, do you notice or feel any difference in the conversations that we have?
Yeah, last time I watched the episode back at home, and it was like the first time hearing the whole conversation again. Like, I was listening to you speak, and I'm like, I don't even recall you saying that, because I am in like a different zone when I'm here, for sure.
Right.
So I don't know if you're asking about energy or something.
I'm asking about your energy. I'm asking about your thought process. I'm asking about how you feel. I'm asking about other things that you pick up on that maybe the audience is picking up on that you can't pick up on.
Yeah,
right
I mean,
away.
I think, like, I mean, a lot of people can't see this, but we're in a fucking studio with big lights, cameras everywhere. Our producer, Jay, behind us. So I definitely get in a flow state, I guess you'd call it, when I'm here, that when I go home and watch this back, that I'm definitely in a different mindset. The whole conversation seems different. Every part of it is different.
What's one thing that maybe you took away after watching it last week that you weren't able to pick up on in the midst of the conversation?
I mean, not necessarily during the conversation, but I think like when I met the both of you, really, it's not like we said like, hey, tell me about your past and I'm going to tell you about mine. So there's obviously a lot of shit about you that I didn't know. Right. So having an hour plus time to sit down with you and like pick your brain about some serious shit that you've been through is definitely a fucking crazy experience for me to have.
Do you think it kind of solidifies like the relationship that we all three are building with one another?
Yeah,
absolutely. It makes people closer
I think
like that?
The vulnerability part of it is huge, and obviously you're being vulnerable with kind of everybody here,
right.
But I think we're kind of cultivating that environment for you where you feel like it's safe enough, and kind of the way that I feel a lot about the podcast stuff is like almost like I value your opinions more than a lot of the people that I don't know that are going to watch this. So I do think it's important that we have a shared like trusting amongst each other, and even I'm sure a lot of the things we'll talk about today with Mike.
Oh yeah,
will be a testament to that.
How you doing, Mike?
Nervous.
So I want to start this with one question because a lot of people know you. They know of you. They know what you're about. They know a little bit about your past, some of which we're really going to delve into, some of which we're just going to kind of skate through the surface on. I want to tap into your psyche right off the bat. When you were a kid, what was the one thing you wanted to be more than anything in the world?
A dad.
Now, are you cliche answering that because you know that we're going to kind of discuss fatherhood, or is that that's really...
Yeah, and what's crazy is... I just went to my 4-year-old's pre-K graduation, and when they graduate, they're getting their diploma, and everyone has to be what they want to be when they get older. And one kid was a firefighter, one guy was a police officer. My kid wants to be a grandpa.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which is wild.
I'm curious too. You say a dad. Did you?
I could tell you, I have a vivid, like, scene in my head of just being this old, back then you're young, and you're talking, I'm like 8 or 9 years old. So to me, old was like 50.
Yeah.
But I had this like old man with white hair, glasses and suspenders, eating breakfast, reading a newspaper with a house full of 5 kids, 6 kids running around.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask. What was the image? Was it like a family?
I could feel the energy of it, bro, since I'm probably 2nd or 3rd grade.
So
I don't know why.
This was Jax or Mickey?
That was Jax. Yeah.
So my question to you is to off-branch that first question. So now you have Jax that does this. Do you feel, knowing that he's kind of following in those footsteps identically, do you feel like your fulfillment is at its peak as a father? Do you think that you've reached that level where you are now beyond proud to be the father that you have? Do you think you still have work to do as a father?
Yeah, every day. But I think I'll be able to, I believe in like generational curses, and that you could change your projectile, like it's
your
not
karma.
Just, yeah, exactly. Like energetically, like not physically your DNA, but I think over different generations, it takes someone energetically to stand up one day and be like, I'm not going to raise my kids just because my parents did this to me. It's not the same shit that you're spewing. And I feel like it's my job to treat them how I wish, not that I would have been treated, but to really show them the world that I would have been shown.
So like, was your relationship with your father that good to where you really wanted to kind of follow in his footsteps and be a father, or was it kind of tumultuous where you wanted to pull away and be something different and better than what you were not getting at home?
My dad was a good dad. I mean, he coached me from the age of 3 to 18. He worked for Con Edison, did your typical out the door at 3 a.m., came home at 5 p.m. I had like this subconscious love for him. It wasn't really like a I love you relationship or hugs, hello, and goodbye. But it definitely wasn't oh man, I'm getting treated awesome and I can't wait to treat my kids like this. I feel like being older, looking back, it's kind of like what I wish I would have had.
Do you feel that because you didn't get those certain things from him, that as a father now, you've kind of been able to give your kids what you know you were missing out on? Or do you feel that...
I think it's an overall energy of like supported love that I got. Like, I don't want it to come off like I wasn't loved as a kid, because I grew up in a loving household. We had our drips and drabs, but the overall protected, I did not grow up as like a protected household loving family, you know, like, and I always wanted to project that energy to that person that I wish could have been there from 5 or 6 years old to high school. I want to make sure that I'm that for my kids.
Do you think you learned any of that through watching other people that you were around to maybe not have bad relationships and be like, oh man, I can't be that?
Or the opposite, or the good ones, you know, like I could specifically, I grew up in other people's households growing up. So like I could tell you which family at the time, like, oh, this guy's dad's a dick, and, you know, they don't fucking love him. Meanwhile, he was the one that was, you know, the chores and the strict family dinner time and the Sunday dinner you couldn't miss unless you were dead, and making him go to practice because you don't quit. And, you know, you look back and like, damn, bro, this motherfucker got raised good, you know. And a lot of these kids took advantage of it, and they're all fucking drug addicts or in rehab or dead. So I try to get this middle mold of, you know, being that, teaching them what's right while showing them love. And I didn't have that total mixture.
So, like, for relatability purposes, right, I had mentioned something in my last episode that because I had a father that was present without being present. Don't get me wrong. Like, my dad, when he was there and he wasn't having a certain emotional breakdown mentally, I was loved. But the times where I wasn't loved, I wasn't loved. And what that made me do was look for male figures and other men in my life. Do you think that not having certain things and a certain style of relationship with your father kind of made you, I guess as you got older, latch onto other male figures in a sense where maybe they demonstrated and portrayed certain attributes and qualities as a male figure that you didn't get from your dad?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was more of, you know, I was brought up Jewish, which
right
is a whole nother fucking conversation.
Well, let's get into that. So don't do a whole nother Let's get into it. You said you got drips and drabs. Like, how does that correlate to your drip and drab?
So I got the energy growing up of like with a view of like the minority, you know, or it would have been like, you know, nowadays it would have been like the gay kid in the straight community, the black kid in the white community. So we grew up Jewish, but which, if you're not familiar with, is a very time-consuming fucking religion.
Right.
So, you know, you start Hebrew school at like 1st or 2nd grade, and it's a Sunday morning for 3 hours, Monday night for 3 hours, Friday night you go to the temple, Saturday morning you go to the temple, and my mother wasn't bat mitzvahed. She went just to, you know, basically impress my grandparents. My dad was an Irish Catholic and just said, fuck it, do whatever you want to make my mom happy.
Right.
And which sounds like not a big deal until then you are now in 2nd and 3rd grade, and I'm sitting in elementary school. And I think it was Thursdays, everyone went to Catholic school. And out of 380 kids in a graduating class, there were 3 of us that weren't Catholic. And it was me, another Jewish girl, and a Muslim girl. And we would sit in the cafeteria, and I remember this feeling like it was yesterday. I was just sitting in the cafeteria of like, why am I not Catholic? Why am I not with those kids? And it makes you wonder, like, well, why am I different? And I can't even go home and ask my mom because she's not even a full practicing Jew. She's just Jewish to go to temple on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to make my grandparents happy. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. That was the void that I want to control with my kids and close and be there on their entire upbringing and make sure that they understand everything and I could answer any questions in any aspect of life and that they could trust me to ask me.
So, like, as a child, you're alone in this cafeteria.
Yeah.
Do you think as an adult, now looking back, that over the course of your lifetime growing up, that maybe those feelings of abandonment, so that, because that's a wound of abandonment and confusion, do you feel that tied into maybe why, as you got older as an adult, that neglect wound, those abandonment wounds, that's why maybe certain personality traits and attributes you developed as a young adult kind of came into play, where you were kind of latching on to things just to fill that void of loneliness that you had as a child?
Yeah, 100%. And you think as you get older, you start realizing that it was really just like a game of impressing.
Right.
You know, there was never any like, you know, my grandparents were very, you know, they're Russian Jews. They lived in Deer Park. They'd be like a hair underneath Orthodox, but like we had kosher silverware and you didn't mix meat and dairy. And, you know, they went to temple for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and we celebrated Passover and Hanukkah and did a Seder.
Do you still know your Hanukkah prayer?
Yeah, not off the top of my head. No, I do remember the wine one. Okay. Or the Baruch Atah Adonai.
Eloheinu melech haolam.
I'm curious to know if, because you obviously have very different religious and spiritual beliefs now. If when you were a kid you were like a minority, if you weren't, do you think maybe that contributed to your journey of
1,000%
branching out and finding something else to believe in?
Good question.
Yeah, 1,000%.
And maybe if you want to talk a little bit, just maybe a little bit about where you stand now.
So the being Jewish was very important in the childhood, because I used to wear, it just kind of like comes full circle. So I started with wearing it on my sleeve as like a badge of honor. I was different. You know, my brother handled it differently. You know, he was more, I would think growing up, more like an embarrassed, where I was like this proud fucking Jew. I remember as a kid telling me, you know, my first tattoo was gonna be a Jewish star. And then, you know, with that comes, you know, a lot of, not bullying, but like, you know, I'd be talking to someone like, oh, what are you? Like, I grew up, I'm half Russian, half Irish. And I'd be talking to someone and, you know, we're having an A and B conversation and C, D, and E come over and like, you're not fucking Irish, you're a fucking Jew. And I'm like, no, I practice Judaism, right, but I'm Russian, and that was just like a constant battle. Or like, if I had an argument with someone as you get older in high school, like the end all be all, I was like, shut up, you fucking kike, or like, all right, Jew boy, or like, it was just always this Jewish, and like this, you know, West Babylon was a hardcore Catholic Italian community, you know, and you the only people that you can really turn on is your family. And then there's no one to really turn to. You know, my aunt, which is my mom's sister, left her husband at an early age. And my two cousins, I don't think they talked to him from, I don't know, 5th grade to after they graduated high school. I'm the one that actually got them talking again, you know, 15 years down the road. So when you see this and you sit back and you're able to like be the outside view looking into the family, like I smelt the bullshit at like an early age. So now I've depended on this family of Jews that now I know is just a lack of shit, is just trying to support each other. And now you're trying to project yourself into life. And like, it's almost like you question your whole upbringing, because like, well, what was even there? Who really even, if I walked in there tomorrow and said, I'm going to be a converted Catholic, they would have deaded me. So like, is that really family love? And you start going through this, and it happened when I was 18, my parents got divorced. And that was the first like real traumatic incident, because I'm sitting down and I could hear my mom brainwashing my sister, and I go to correct her. And I'm like, yo, that's my fucking dad. Bro, within 30 minutes, I had the cops called, and it just spiraled totally out of control. My dad just sat there and didn't say a word. Let me get kicked out of the house. I'm living in a fucking chimney van, showering as a freshman in the lacrosse showers at school, and there's just no one there, you know, and there was never anyone to turn to, because it was just, we had a family of 15 people, and I was just like crossing off those that were there for me. And then you start wondering, were they ever really there? Mm-hmm. You know, and then that continues down to me having a kid, and even, when I had my first son at an early age, I was 26, he was born March 28th. Besides in a fucking Panera Bread for 15 minutes, I didn't physically hold him until November. That's 8 months. And I find out that this, my ex, who's a phenomenal mom now, but we spent the whole weekend together. I don't even want to talk negatively about her because of how far we've come. But, she was with my mom and my family at my grandparents' house, knowing that I can't see my kid because I had a restraining order on him and all this crazy shit. We were going to trial. And then now November comes around, I find out like, oh, hey, I got my son. Like, oh no, we've seen him, the last 3 weekends of the summer. We were at Granny and Grandpa's with my kid that I didn't even know about. And I just like was constant reminder of just like this whole upbringing, me being proud and falling back on this Jew was all like bullshit.
So let me ask you this, just to kind of, only because I know that there's going to be some of the audience that is going to say, well, what about Taylor's question?
Well, yeah. So the question.
Well, hold on before you go. So my question is kind of branching off what Taylor said. I assume at this point you are out of the Judaism. You're done. And are you an atheist at this point?
At this point.
So you believe in nothing.
Yeah.
So I assume now let's just kind of still tap into what Taylor said, and you lost your child. Okay.
Not physically. Yeah.
Not physically, but you lost custody of your child.
Yeah.
You're at odd ends with your ex at the time. You have no hard solidified foundation with your family. So you believe in nothing. You're giving yourself over to nothing. That's a higher power.
Right.
So my question now is, what happens? How does you losing custody of your child, where does that if there is a downward spiral, what happens? And then how do you wind up from that spiral finding something to believe in? So what is kind of that cataclysm to teeter? And after you teeter, do you teeter even further?
Yeah. So I apologize for the long answer. If I was trying to get like the spiritual thing is a big deal to me because as you can see, it starts young I was very proud of my spirituality. Yeah. Then I go through this atheism basically of like, there's no one out there, fuck the world. And the end all be all, which it's going to come full circle soon, is I had full custody of my son. And going into the final trial date, my lawyer says, who the fuck is so, Debbie Maxwell? I said, my mom. He said, she just wrote a letter to the judge saying that you're not mentally fit to be a single father. And if her lawyer sees that, you're fucking done, bro. You'll see your kid once a month. So after this long battle, that's when I just like gave up. And like the whole dad goal just shattered. And now I'm this 26-and-a-half-year-old kid with a baggage. And who's going to want a kid? I haven't seen him since he's 9 months old. I had a girlfriend at the time who helped me immensely. But, I wound up going from that point years down the road to just going to a random, psychic reading. That 26, this is maybe 5 or 6 years down the road.
Kind of before you mention that, what happened? What course of action did you take once you lost your
So once
child?
all that happened, that we talked about like the suicide attempts, and I was actually, I think there's a big difference in someone who's physically trying to kill themselves and someone who is looking to go through it but kind of chickens out. I think it's it's a difference, but it's still in the same category. And I was sitting at my house at the time, and there's a lot of stuff that had happened by then. I lost my job in 2008 from the market crash. I left school. I'm in foreclosure. My dad bounced to Florida, and I'm just old. I just found out my family has been seeing my fucking kid, and when I called them out on it, it was like, well, you made your own bed, so fucking lay in it. And I was the only one of my friends that had a kid, and I had no job. There's just nothing going on. And I thought about killing myself, and I remember my dad left to Florida, but he left a lever action 30-30, which is like a hunting rifle. And I remember sitting in the bedroom, and I load the gun, and it's just nothing to live for at the time. And I remember sitting at the edge of the bed, and I load the gun and I'm trying to. I was always terrified of. I was never really scared of dying. I was always scared of like not looking pretty. And yeah, it's disgusting. But I was always scared. Like even if I got into a fight, I was always scared like getting buck 50 or getting my teeth knocked out. But you could shoot me. I'm not. It wouldn't really scare me. And I'm sitting at the edge of the bed and I just start thinking like, God forbid, I got the head of the rifle in my mouth. I'm trying to take my toe and put it in. I'm 6'3", so I'm trying to put it in. It's just far enough where I can't get my hand, and I got to get my big toe in there. And I'm just sitting there crying and like, yeah, I want to make sure it really gets you, because they say, if you miss it, then you end up blowing half your head off, and then you survive it. Now I'm going to just be a disaster for the rest of my life.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm sorry.
I was at that point, and as I'm like fucking around with this thing, I hear a door close because my bedroom window was right outside the driveway, and it was my girlfriend at the time who came in, and I put the gun away, and I kind of at the time ran to my best friend's house and kind of broke down to him on what I just tried doing. And I grew up with my boys were some serious dudes, and I remember he whacked me in the side of the head and said, "Grow the fuck up. We don't talk like that. That's weakness." And I just never thought of it again. And that's what kind of projected a whole nother, well, now I'm just going to do me and make something of myself.
Is that what you needed in that moment, though?
I
Getting
did,
smacked
yeah.
in the head, or was maybe having somebody there with love and compassion and just saying, hey, like, I hear you and I see you?
Yeah, no, that's what I needed. I wish I had someone there to talk me through and really settle me down and not choose the path that I chose. I don't regret any path that I chose, but I wish it could have been different. And this relates back to when you said, how am I going to raise my kids, is I want to be that guy that could sit my kids down and explain that you're not weak and that we're here for you and I'm genuinely here for you, because no one was ever there for me. And to get back, I'm trying to say,
It's good.
You keep going, bro, at your pace.
So,
The strongest thing that I think anybody can do is to, one, show their vulnerability, not only to friends, but to a world that's going to be listening, and also just asking for help. Yeah. I don't think there's any weakness about that whatsoever. So I think you need to let this out at the pace that you can.
To answer the full question, and I kind of like, I knew this question was coming, and I was trying to do like the Cliff Notes version. So like, oh, this guy found God. Yeah. It's not like that. So after this happened, I went down more of an underworld road. And you fast forward 5 or 6 years, I am what I thought healed individual, which was really just a narcissistic, egotistical animal. And
would you say that that's the worst?
The worst path you could possibly choose, to think that you're healing. And it feels good, man. And I had a lot of fucking power. And I rolled with some real serious motherfuckers. And, we made a name for ourselves, and we did all of this. And I walked into, let's call her a median, and she was a real median. She was Teresa Caputo's ex-partner. She's not just a nobody. When Teresa Caputo was famous, this girl said, I'm not about this shit. I'd rather be in the shadows.
My parents went to see her. I didn't know it was her.
Teresa?
No.
Oh, really?
Partner, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's who I went to. And again, at this point, I'm a full-blown atheist. It's on 11/11. I believe in nothing. I'm probably 30 or 31 years old, 32 maybe tops. And she tells me you're going to be dead or in jail by January 1st, which at the point was, maybe 6 weeks from then. And I said, yeah, whatever. And she said some readings, and like whoever came through was really there. And she said, excuse me. She said, go buy a crystal. What the fuck is that? So I went to a store, and there's thousands of crystals. And I picked the one called Celestite, which is the ancestor communication crystal. So I'm like, all right, that's a pretty good coincidence. I use the word now as validation, which is your ancestors or the dead or whoever your gods validating and showing you, hey, I told you this months ago. Here's the proof we're listening. And I went on this journey of spirituality where I was basically a guided meditation of healing yourself throughout like 18 months, dude. It was a weekly thing of anywhere from 3 to 4 hours every week. And you start off and, you end up getting to this spiritual spot where like you are, we did cord cutting, we did guided meditations, we did sound bowl healing.
As you're doing this, and not to cut you off, but as you're doing all this, you're still rolling with those dudes.
Yeah.
You're still in that underground world. You're still engaging in
for
those
years.
activities.
I was made fun of for it. You know what I mean? I went balls in on this. There was an awesome, the trauma didn't stop there, unfortunately. When my kid was 18 months old, and then my best friend, my right-hand man, my VP, like we did everything together. The same day he overdoses is the same day my kid's appendix explodes at 18 months. They were in the same, one was in Brookhaven Hospital, one was in Winthrop Hospital. And, my wife stayed with my son for 10 days. He lost 40% of his body weight. His stomach was extended. And what was crazy is I went in there, long story short, is that they both went in the same day. And at this point, I'm spiritually into it. At this point, I'm, a Satru, it would be like the term for it, or like Norse gods, religion, Vikings, paganism, heathenry. So it's a sacrificial relationship, which means there is no take. It's only give, take. So where in this situation, a lot of people would say, hey, please, they're my best friend and my son. Like, that's not how the world works. You're not getting both of them.
Yep.
And I just cried for 7 days between the amount of cocaine that I did, the drinking, and I just saged and cried in the shower, dude, for probably 30 hours that week, just praying to not take my son. And the same day my son left the hospital with a PICC line to his heart for 6 weeks because he was too weak for surgery, was the day that they pulled the plug on my best friend. And that is what answers Taylor's original question of, at that point in my life, the spirituality was exactly the little kid in me, I feel like, was healed through that spirituality, because what I thought being a Jew was growing up and being proud and wearing it on my sleeve is now what was projected out. It wasn't just hearsay and bullshit. It's what I really believed in and what I witnessed. And, instead of turning to my parents, I invoke these gods and these spirits, and I really feel like, they've cleansed me and put me in a different projectile that as long as I don't give up on them, they're not going to give it up on me. And that's my biggest fear now.
Now, you and I share identical beliefs.
Yeah.
My question to you is, when your friend was taken and your child was saved, did that start your journey to kind of crawl out of this underworld in any way, shape, or form? Or did something else kind of transpire to where you said, fuck it, I'm out of here?
Yeah, when I almost died on the job site 3.5 years ago. I was building a condo. So one of the good things about that period, like when he passed, moving forward, is, I was growing a company, and I really learned in healing myself to stay in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And that is the number one key to successfully getting out of whatever you're in. And everyone will say, but, or this, that's all ego. That's all your own excuses. And it's hard to say, but that's the truth. And it's the blunt truth that no one's going to look you in the face and tell you. There is no excuse other than it's your job to get out of that situation. And I feel like by staying present, that's how you do it. So I would take anything on financially as an investment. And I got approached to build some condos, and I knew the guy was a jerk off, and everyone warned me, but I thought, again, if I was at this point, I was the ultimate king of being a piece of shit and didn't give a fuck about anyone for myself. At this point, I tried being a good dad, and I went back to not speaking with my kid at the time, my first son, and I would take it out on my other kids, and all this shit's going on, and we're building a 3-story condo, and No one shows up to work the one day. It's fucking 10 degrees out, and there's these monster drainage sewers. They're about 8 inches thick.
I know what you're
8
talking
feet
about. I used
high,
to be a
and
carpenter.
10-foot diameter, and it's a donut with the shell,
Yep.
with the headpiece, and it's flipped upside down. And the guy that I was working for, it was just an absolute piece of shit, and just didn't take care of anything. And he had these like rigged up lobster claws that you have to put in the ring to take it off a truck. So I go in the ring to hook it, and I can't get out because you have to hold pressure on the rings while the excavator is pulling up. And I'm 240 pounds now. Back then I was 285. You know what I mean? I was benching 5 plates, deadlifting 7. Yeah, I was an animal. I thought I was Superman. Had a fucking beard down to my nipples. I had a man bun, fucking hair like Jesus. And I'm in this shell now on this truck, and the excavator goes to pull the chains up, and it gets caught. So now I can't get out. So I'm like, just move it. Well, as he picks the thing up, I'm inside, and 2 of the 3 lobster claws break while I'm in the air, and this 6,500 pound cement ring falls off the truck onto the ground with me in it. So it ends up breaking, and I'm on the cover. So the cover breaks and swings. The ring falls. I fall on the ring, and then the cover comes up and crushes me. And I'll give a pic to Jay that he can like edit into the. You guys will see a picture with a red circle. I'm in the red circle on my stomach. The only thing that's poking out is my head. And there's no one there. It's just me and the operator. He can't get out of the box because he's stopping the second ring from rolling on me and just flattening me like a dead mosquito. So long story short, I wound up getting out. I was able to, my collarbone broke, so I was able to put my shoulder into my sternum. I had a collapsed lung, 4 broken ribs, a destroyed tibia plateau and knee. And I'm trying to get out. Then I finally get out, and I'm suffocating because I have a Carhartt on and a hoodie, and it's choking me to death. So I had a knife that I had to cut my own clothes off, and took myself to the hospital. And to answer your question, long-winded, is that is what I was put on medical, and I stayed in the hospital for 13 days, and then I sat in a hospital bed in my house for 56 additional days. And it wasn't like, go to sleep in a hospital bed. It was piss, shit, sponge bath. I didn't physically remove myself from the bed for 70 days.
Jeez.
And that's when I was able to, there was a lot of other stuff that came to, and, multiple things happened, kind of like a perfect storm, but I was able to leave on medical and for once, really give back to my kids.
Do you feel if you didn't get crushed that you would have still been in the underground? Do you feel that this crush is what catapulted you to leave and kind of transcend you into this actual spiritual existence that you're now living in, which has also now put you in the position in life just in general that you're now able to excel in?
Yeah. It was rough too, because I had, one of the things we talked about in the other podcast too, on top of being present, is updating who you're around.
Yep.
Some of these guys were, best friends for decades, and it's I still to this day, but I dream about it at least once a week of just like it's everything. It was life. Everyone was consumed together. Everyone's kids were together. Everyone's wives hung out together. There was nothing outside of life. It was this, and then it was my kids. And I suffered a little bit of depression once I started getting back on. I had a lot of physical obstacles when I started. I wasn't able to walk. I had when I was leaving the hospital, I asked the doctor, the orthopedic, like, hey, what's an update? What's a goal? And he fucking laughed in my face and said, well, what does that even mean? And I said, like, when will I be able to walk again? He goes, dude, you'll never walk again. Maybe with a cane. He's like, but your treadmill days are over. So I had for about a year and a half, which would run till like 21, 22, like fall of 2023, which is just last year. I just did, numerous rounds of research with stem cells and all this other things. That's what I was consumed on for so long. There was nothing else. I shut everything off. You know, I had zero friends, and that was another thing too. When you're hurt, is you have all these guys under you and with you, and you know, no one came, and you end up there now by yourself. And I've now neglected my wife and my kids for so long, and it was just trying to get back to their good doing. And
what type of father were you during all
absent.
this? Okay.
So
And
also you have more kids at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think most people
Yeah,
know.
so
Let Taylor
You have
touch
this-
on that for a
You
second.
have this one first kid, you go through all this stuff with
Yeah.
the kid's mother, with your family, so on and so forth. And then you don't really have custody of the kid, or you don't really see him that much. You don't have much relationship with him for...
Yeah, so probably till I didn't really get him till he was, let's say, a year old. And then when he was about 4 or 5, we were eating Thanksgiving dinner one day, and he just, you know, and I treat my kids like they're adults. And we were at Thanksgiving dinner, and he turns to me, he's like, "Yo, Dad, I don't want to hang out with you anymore." I'm like, "All right, no problem, bro. I'll bring you home." He's like, No, I don't want to see you anymore. And we didn't see each other for like 4 years, you know. And I was on a bus going to Atlantic City, drugged out of my face. And again, talking about like validation, like this is during my spiritual journey. And I had this random guy come up to me. You know, I knew him okay, and we weren't close. And he shows me his phone, and he's like, "Yo, my 21-year-old wants to have a beer with me." And I said, I don't give a fuck. Like, that's cool. Why? Who are you telling me? He's like, "I don't know, bro. I just thought I would tell you. I haven't talked to him since he's 3. And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I haven't talked to my son since he's 3. And he just texted me first time in 18 years for his 21st birthday. He wants to have his first beer with me. Can you believe that?" And the guy's crying to me. And he's like, "You know what? That shows you never give up on your kid." I sent him every year. I sent him a Halloween card, a Christmas card, a birthday card. I never missed his games. I knew this day would come. And from that day, I remember I was molly out of my
I just got the
fucking
fucking
mind.
chills.
And I remember that was a turning point where I'm like, I'm not going to give up on this kid. And I started, we just now at 13 years old are like having like a great relationship. But back then, this is like 2018, 19, maybe it was like 5 years. So he was like 6 or 7. And then I would go to his games. I send him a birthday card. I send him a Christmas card. There was no one telling him, "Hey, go see your dad," and I just never gave up on it. And that started going. And then we would talk a little bit, and now I have, my kids weren't planned. My wife had a brain tumor taken out, 5 years before we even met. They were told she would never have kids. It was physically impossible, 1 in a trillion chance. But if I fucking sneeze on her, she gets pregnant, Yeah. And that's what I have to deal with. And so then I had so she ended up, we'll go through one day like my financial journey. So she ended up taking me in for 1 year and just cutting up all my credit cards and being like, "Listen, you have 1 year to get your shit together." So within that 1 year, we end up having Mickey, who's our oldest. But like to answer your question, the night before, like I'm in my garage, bro, with like 10 to 12 guys just ripping fucking drugs, drinking. I remember going to the bar and she's calling me, she's having contractions. So we moved the bar into my garage and we were just gambling, saying like, "Hey, listen, whoever's up by 7 a.m., you're coming to the hospital with me." Meanwhile, she's like 73%
Dilated.
70% miscarriage rate.
Oh, shit.
She was like high risk. The doctor wouldn't even let us name him till the third trimester because he was so confident she was going to miscarry. So that's how I raised my first kid. And then as my second kid is born, literally a month later, Justin dies and my other, Mickey's in the hospital. And I remember her mom texting Jill in the hospital, like, "Yo, your husband didn't even come see your kid." Like I was just worrying about healing myself and not fucking killing myself and going off the deep end. And I know I probably didn't have a relationship with Jax till he was like 10 months old. And then I got fucking crushed. And I remember sitting in that hospital bed. It was Valentine's Day. And I still have the picture, man, on my Instagram. And it was just them sitting they both had long hair. Jax had hair down to his ass. Mickey, from his head getting shaved, it kept growing back like blotchy from the surgeries and from when he was sick. So he just let his hair grow because he felt weird with the blotchiness. So he had like this real thick, like Jew hair mop. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, I will, from this moment forward, I will only use them as I should have been treating them in the beginning, and I'm going to use them for everything. And I'm going to base my days on them, and I'm going to base my entire life on them. And that's what got me out of that final depression, is like my regimen was my kids, you know, and that's what came back as like full circle to being that guy that I wish I had growing up, and using that spirituality that kind of saved me to preach on them, but support it for when the time comes that they want to ask about it.
As the type of father that you are now, if let's say Taylor and I are Jackson, Mickey, and Brody, but Brody's just can't even fucking speak yet fully.
He's gonna have a bail bond fund.
Yeah, 100. Bro, by the time he's 13, he's having a bail bond.
It's crazy.
What do you think your two kids love most about you now? If you were to ask them, like, what do you love most about Daddy? Like, what is it?
That I'm there.
Yeah? Do you think... You about to make me cry,
Yeah.
bro. Holy shit. I'm about to cry. Do you... Oh, fuck. Do you think that as kids... I can't even ask this question. Fuck, dude. Do you think as kids that they recall any of you not being there? Has that ever... No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I think that they'll remember now with me being there, because I was older. I was 18 when I needed my dad, and he wasn't there. And, you know, my dad walked around with he sounded like Tic Tacs with all the antidepressant medicines he had. But I feel like I remember growing up and a nice summer day, the smell of the grass through the window, the feeling going from the air-conditioned house to the hot, humid backyard, and you know, eating egg sandwiches that my dad made, and listening to the radio and washing the cars.
Listening to all the cicadas having sex.
Yeah. They were big, you know, catching fireflies, playing manhunt. There's a certain energy that you have as a kid that is this innocent, genuine, subconscious love. And I feel like at some point you're going to lose that. And I really feel that if you were to ask my kids, I think I cry this much. If you were to ask my kids at any moment of their life, that they're not going to lose that. That's my answer.
So, have you lost it?
I lost that shit years ago.
So how do you get it back now at this point in your life?
You know, I don't think you do. I think at this point you just accept, you know, you can get your vibration up, but I think you can only get calloused so many times that the calluses just become part of you. And at that point, there's nothing you could do for yourself. You can only give back, which is what this podcast is. You know, and I feel like, especially when it comes to fatherhood, and, you know, I mentor a lot of people and I talk to a lot of people. I don't charge $1 for it. And I'm always very blunt, and I always get the same reaction in the beginning. Is like, yeah, well, I think it doesn't matter what you fucking think, because that's where you are now. Your thinking got you to the slums of where you're at now. So you need to change. And then as soon as you accept that change and that something has to be different, then you can move forward. It's like, you know, everyone says like, well, you know, Jim Carrey says, you know, depression is when you don't want to be your avatar anymore. Mm-hmm. At some time, you know how many times, bro, numerous times, I'm the man, I'm at a party. There's no one fucking better than me. I'm doing a bump in the bathroom, bro, and I'm crying in the mirror. I'm looking in the mirror at a party and I'm fucking crying because I don't want to be this person anymore. And I can't change, but I want to change. And eventually you're going to have to change. And that's what's going to project you to get out of where you're at.
Did you get to a point where you were like disgusted in yourself or something?
Beyond
like
disgusted,
that?
bro. And, you know, I even knew to get, so like you have to sacrifice some stuff. So I started like cleaning myself up with the drugs and the drinking and giving more time to my kids. And I knew I was getting hurt, dude. Cause I like relapsed I was big on rituals, and while I'm doing all this growth, bro, I'm just getting made fun of. Like I went balls in. Like you have to, prove that you want this more than just you want it or you want it. And I'd make altars and feed these guys and fucking paint my face and new moon, full moon, and I thought it was batshit crazy in the beginning too. But I ended up, I was taught by a bunch of these Orisha witches, and this is what they said to do, and this is what I did, and it worked out for me, I think.
Are you proud of the man that you've become now?
Yeah, now I am. And
so when you're brushing your teeth with your left hand and you're sitting there saying "I love you," which, by the way, I tried that.
What'd you think?
So uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's weird,
dude. My whole body was like shaking from discomfort because I can't do anything with this fucking left hand, dude.
That's the point of it.
That was hard.
Yeah,
that was hard. But if we've both posted this on social media. We both kind of discussed this last podcast for my episode. But if you were looking at your younger self now, and let's say it's whether you're the age of 8 and you have that abandonment and neglect wound from you being in school alone, when you're 26 and you have the rifle in your hand, or when you're 30 and you are in that underground depth of just chaos, do you think that each of those versions of yourself would look at you and be extremely proud and happy of the man that you've become now? Yeah, and what would you tell those younger versions of yourself now that maybe they needed to hear back then? What do you think, if you were to sit down with your 30-year-old self prior to getting into that underground lifestyle, what do you think you could have told him to kind of deter that version of you not going in?
I don't think you could have.
Would you take it back?
I wouldn't take it back. No, I don't regret it at all. I think people.
Can you also? Sorry to cut you off, but I already know that people are going to be a little bit confused on being very cryptic about, like, you keep just saying underworld, and I don't want to put you on the spot. You can plead the fifth.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a motorcycle club, and I'd rather keep the majority of that stuff off of here. But
by all means,
it is good to know. It was and we were in there from the beginning of it and grew it together. And when I got hurt, I was physically incapable of doing it. Yeah. That's when I was able to.
So just to clarify, by underworld is kind of just doing stuff that gangs typically do.
Yeah, it was a gang-related motorcycle club.
Now, what do you think you could have told yourself maybe then at 26 in order to deter you from not going into that motorcycle club? Do you think there's any part of your life now where you could have went back in time and changed the course of your direction, regardless of you not regretting anything, which I love that you regret nothing? Okay, I think that's the most important thing, because I think, which we said last time, you have to go through the chaos in order to experience that level of peace afterwards. Right. So you have to take all of that good with the bad. There is no yin without the yang. There's no light without the dark. So the fact that you're able to embrace and embody both and equally look at them as a kind of simpatico relationship, is there any time in your life where this version of Michael Maxwell could have went back and said, hey, stupid, this is what you need to hear, don't do this? Do you think any part of you would have listened?
Absolutely not.
Okay, no. So you were just gung-ho, straightforward, can't tell me anything.
Yeah, I've always lived in the present moment, and I never. Actually, I remember one of the fights I had with my dad growing up was just, I don't understand. You get everything that you fucking want, and I remember saying to myself, like, if I manifested it and acted like I had it, it would come to me, and I just never made decisions based on the future consequences or off the past actions that led to it. I kind of just did in the moment.
Right.
Even up until work today, I do the same shit. And people are like, I don't understand. And it comes off like you're throwing shit to the wall and seeing what sticks.
But you throw enough shit at the wall, eventually some shit is going to stick, dude. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think I don't, everything was such a crucial part. I do wish I would have never given up on my first son. That's the only regret that I really have.
But do you think if you didn't give up on your first son, then you'd be able to appreciate the children and the multitude of children that you have now?
So that was a problem. No, That was it. Yeah. I didn't even
So
think
you
about
had to
that.
give up on
Yeah,
your
'cause
first
I
son in
would
order
go,
to
like,
appreciate what you had lost.
Yeah, like he would ask me to go to his game, and I would go to the game, and then like he wouldn't even talk, but he wouldn't even look at me, he wouldn't say hello to me, he wouldn't say goodbye to me. And then I'd go home, and I got this little fucking 2-year-old, Mickey's coming up, like, and I'm like, get the fuck away from me. And I just like, I was so out of it because I was so hurt, and I was just like lashing on him, and I just saw that post that we shared on Instagram about, don't let your storms get your kids wet.
Yeah.
That shit was wild to me. And like,
Appreciate the storms and learn to dance in
and
the
then
rain.
yeah, and that one too.
dude.
And I think between those two, I wish I could have told my younger self at the multiple different phases those two sayings, and it would have made a little bit more of a chance of hope in the future, because the one problem that I had, and I still have to this day, is like just feeling like it's okay, being allowed to be happy, and it doesn't happen. You can ask my wife, like if something, I can't lay on the couch for more than 40 minutes unless I fall asleep or watch a movie. Like I can't not think about work or this or that. And I feel like if I'm not doing anything, it's it's just failure. It's failure of time. It's failure to evolve. It's failure to better myself. And that's better now. Before that, I wasn't even allowing myself to be happy because it was just constantly like, something is going to happen now. And I'm just waiting for the inevitable to go back to living a shitty life. Had a lacrosse scholarship, got a sick job, market crashed. Had a kid, wasn't able to see him. Started a company, had to claim bankruptcy, and had my wife fucking cut my credit cards up and take care of me for a year. Got my shit going, got crushed. It was just never. So now I'm at this point where like I've learned from everything, from all those different individual parts of my life, and the biggest part that I had, not the hardest part I had to get over was that it's okay to be happy, like just to enjoy that present
Kind of
moment.
like survivor's guilt almost that some people get. Do you still have any bit of that guilt? Is there something inside of you, like when we're in your backyard and we're all just hanging out? Is there something tickling the back of your brain, like get the fuck up and go do something?
For a
You're
long
wasting
time
time.
it was. Now I'm a lot better, but so that's why I would always I stopped drinking in December, and that was why I can't just drink. Drink leads to drugs and everything else, and that would be one of the issues. That's a perfect issue. I had a huge party last year for July 4th and Labor Day. I was fucking 2 lines in within 15 minutes of the party because in my head I'm like, this is I spent 15 grand on the party. There's fucking 200 people here. Like, you're allowed to just sit here and enjoy this. And in my head it's like, oh, you're not that you're not good enough to enjoy this, but like what makes you good enough to enjoy this? And life shouldn't be this good. With everything you've gone through, like you're not allowed to feel this happy. And I would just escape that with drinking and drugs.
So my question then is, you've already went through these pivotal moments in your life of being crushed and realizing that you have nobody of the people that you thought you had except for a very select few amount of people. What then in December triggered you to say, fuck it, no more doing lines, no more drinking, no more this? So you're already making the money. You're already super successful. You've already surrounded yourself. Now, I didn't know you existed at this point, and when I did see you, I wanted to slap you, okay? You already were friends with people like Taylor, who obviously is one of the best human beings alive. So you've already surrounded yourself with people that love you, care about you. You have a successful business. What then caused that final step to say, no more drugs, no more this, no more that? What was it?
I think it was, believe it or not, I ended up joining OG last December.
Okay.
So I'm like a year and a half in or whatever. And for the first time, it was something that, me and my wife both do. She got her whole mommy makeover last year. She lost like 65 pounds because she had a lot of health issues. And
You got her pregnant again right after that?
Yeah, fucked up.
You're a problem.
I know.
You're a
Piece of
real
shit.
problem.
I think it was every time through every aspect of my life, I've always evolved. I'm not going to say that the people I was around were better, because that's not, I needed every friend that I've ever had at the time I had them is who I needed at that time. But I feel like this was the first time where it's like, well, where else can I go? Like, there's not even, I'm fucking 40 years old. Who am I going to attach to? And I've also at this time now been confidently happy with myself, where I don't need anyone. So I was even extra pickier.
Yeah.
And I clicked with Taylor really good. Like, we became, I mean, I look at him now as like a little, like legit, like a little brother. But we talk daily. I mean, the way we talk now, I've been talking with him for the last 18 months.
Right.
And he was the final like piece of the puzzle of like, how can you really genuinely start new and go from there at my age with where I've been through and enjoy it, not just do it. You know, being attached to someone because you have to be attached and you're fucking bored, to me is just weak. But being attached to someone who has similar interests to you, and you have your own happiness and they have their own happiness, and you guys should talk about shit that's non-related and still feel love for each other and success. He was the first person that really, you know, outside of anyone that I knew, came in through OG and evolved through some friendships and lifting together. And I said to myself, like, I don't understand why, I don't enjoy drinking, you know, and there's no reason to do it. And every time that he, you know, we would discuss stuff like dieting and workouts, like just the way that he would describe it. And he, you know, you saw from last episode, he breaks it down for like a 5-year-old.
Oh my God. Yep.
That can understand it. And like, then he researches it almost like an instant bibliography. And I almost felt like drinking and getting fucked up was like disrespectful to him. You know what I mean?
I remember we're in a group chat. It's a gym group chat, but I can remember you texted it probably around that time, December or whatever. Like, you're out to lunch with some of them. I just didn't go that time, and you're like, Taylor, fuck, like, how do I go out to lunch and not have a drink? Like, you were still in that phase at that point, but you wanted to get out of it. You were starting to get interested in diet. You had came back from getting crushed at that point, and pretty much we just started working out together. I didn't even actually work out with you at first. I would just go to the gym with you. I would just tell you what to do.
Yeah, the trainer. Yeah.
So actually, you came to OG at first, and I was having you do some funky stuff because he was telling me like my knee got crushed. So I'm like, all right, we'll do some iso holds and some really slow empty bar squats and like just like easy stuff, but which was different for him because he had been doing like heavy weightlifting his whole life. And I'm like, all right, let's go back to zero and try to build things from the ground up. And he was just like, oh wow, this is interesting. So we started going to the regular LA Fitness or some shit, and people would come up to you all the time like, dude, what are you doing here? I thought, you were crushed. Like, like last time I seen you, like, how are you walking? And then you're in such great shape. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. I just train now. So I hammered you a lot last episode about like, what are the practical things that you did? Like, what was actionable, like beyond mindset switches and belief system and maybe developing a faith and things like that. And I think for you, I think maybe even realizing it or not, I think a really big thing was building your physical body back up, and then also like getting rid of some of the vices and starting this healthier lifestyle of what you're consuming, who you're like putting yourself around. So it's cool to me to hear your side of that, because I didn't know. Obviously, I'm just like showing up, but I didn't know where I played a part in that. So it's pretty cool to hear that.
It was a big part because even I'm a big less is more fan, you know, and if someone can do a little, I don't need someone to break down a whole workout for me and go crazy, but you would do these little tiny changes, you know, or even the dieting, you know, I think we'll get more into that with your, you know, when you described that episode, but you would do these little tweaks, and I was like, every time it was like, like an awakening. I'm like, dude, it's that fucking easy. But like, it would happen once, it would happen twice, it would happen 3 times, and here I'm like, bro, this guy's 50 pounds lighter than me, not as strong as me, but his whole mindset just changed the entire outlook on like how to take care of yourself. I was like a Cliff Notes cheat that it's very possible to get very fast results. And then I'm like, well, let's go extreme. And then we just kept going harder and harder. And then it went into the carnivore diet and all these other diets that like now I'm running I mean, we've run together in class before, 300 meters at a clip. Like, I couldn't walk an eighth of a mile in November.
So, Mike, okay, so like for you, okay, you own a gym. You've also owned other businesses. Your entire, at least from what I know about you, your job is to basically heal and fix people. It's to give back to community. But now knowing, because you just said something like, I didn't realize how, in depth.
Timeline, really, more so I didn't realize, because I met you, you were like a big, strong kind of guy.
How does it make you feel? Now, granted, again, you've helped hundreds, if not thousands of people in all of your endeavors. But when you have somebody here who you genuinely love, selflessly, when he's sitting there telling you, hey, you did this for me, you are the catalyst, you are the reason why I'm in the position where I'm in. Because we know that Mike is the type of person where and I believe and you believe that physical and spiritual helps with the emotional and mental.
Absolutely.
So you've been able to literally cure this man of physical ailments, which has now helped his spiritual, mental, and emotional development. So hearing that, it's not like I'm coming to your gym and you're putting me through a leg workout, which, by the way, was fucking brutal on Saturday. No, you don't understand what he made us do. And where I can look and be like, yo, good workout. No. This is where you have now changed his life to where he can function, walk, stand better, sit better, do this. Like, how does that make you feel just as a human being and as a friend?
It's incredibly fulfilling.
It is, right?
Yeah,
I bet.
It is really what I've always wanted to do. And my previous career before this was basically also physical therapy. It was more holistic cryotherapy and all those things. But that was the whole, like, my whole lifestyle then as well. It was like sick, hurt people coming to me and me trying to do my best to heal them through what I was offering there. And then also through like, oh, you should go try this. And have you ever heard of this? And so again, it's very, very fulfilling. Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, it allows me to do that every day.
Now, is that where these kind of stories, is that the reason why you're able to wake up in the morning and kind of go about your day in the demeanor that you do, feeling purposeful and fulfilled? And is your goal in life to just help the Michael Maxwells of this world?
Yeah, I would say what's hard, I just show up every day. I don't really like think about it. Like, I didn't show up for Mike to train him like, this guy needs me and I'm changing his life right now and like I'm serving a purpose and this is fulfilling for me. I'm like most other people that are going to work at some point, like, all right, I got to go to work. For me, it's never like, fuck, man, I can't believe I have to go to work. This is miserable. I'm like, but it's not always like, I'm so excited to go train somebody right now. I do much more appreciate it when it's somebody that actually cares about what we're doing, that wants to listen and isn't that person that's like, well, I think this. And I'm like, then why are you seeking me out if you're just telling me what you already want to do?
Did you expect your relationship with him to kind of flourish to what it's into? Because again, like, we've all had the same feelings, I guess, about one another at the very beginning.
I hate this mother. The first class, I wanted to punch him in the face.
It's not that I hated Taylor. I just couldn't understand why Taylor was the way Taylor was. You know what I'm saying? Just monotone. And just, I thought Taylor hated me. Like, wouldn't look at me, wouldn't dap me up, wouldn't talk to me, nothing. And now I kind of understand how and why you operate the way you are the way you are. You vibe. You're on that high frequency constantly. You have that very clean vibrational energy about you. You don't go in there looking to be center of attention. You are what you are.
Yeah.
Did you expect this relationship between the two of you to flourish into what it is now? Because this is more than just friendship. Like, you two are brothers, like this is now an older brother, little brother kind of camaraderie that's built. And how does that now make you feel that you've been able to establish that and not only heal somebody, but develop that kind of friendship through your own passion, which I think is super cool.
I never reflected on it, honestly. I don't even know how it happened, actually, if you asked me about it. I couldn't even walk you through.
It was contagious, too, last year. I felt like, especially at Crunch, when we had, like, at one point, remember the one day there was like 12 of us working out.
Oh, for sure, yeah. We were in like the golden age of bodybuilding where we had like us two and then one more guy and then one more guy.
I love
we had
that.
7 guys in stringers, like smashing weights at midsummer. So it was really, really good. And I don't I'm not as close with honestly any of those guys as I am with Mike, and I think that's probably a little bit more due to him just being very giving and forward, and him seeking, and me just like being open to playing the game of bouncing things back and forth. And honestly, he's been a mentor to me in a lot of ways, and like a spiritual kind of guide, and a guide, and a financial guru, and like a guide in a myriad of ways. So I just think we had a very organic like give and take. Like he found me useful for things, and I found him valuable for things, and it was very organic. But I couldn't even actually really tell you what brought us that much closer. Like I went to Salem with him last year.
Oh yeah,
you know, like
yeah,
he just
that was a great time.
was like, "Yo, you want to come away to?"
Was that at the kind of the start of the friendship
I couldn't
forming?
even honestly tell you, but probably like somewhat. Yeah.
Do you reflect a lot in general, or you
No.
just no? Okay.
I really don't.
Is there any reason just why, or it's just never been in
I
your
just
nature? You just take things for what they are at face value, and when
I'm
this
just
happens, it just
maybe
happens.
a little too present sometimes.
No,
Like in terms of,
that's
I think
There's no such
it's
thing as that.
good to.
There's no such thing.
It's
as
good to
that.
reflect though. It always feels good. It's usually somebody else that brings it upon me to be like,
Right.
oh, huh, yeah, actually that is cool. I didn't think about it.
So do you think, because I said at the beginning of this podcast, I think that our purpose has already been fulfilled. I think we have so many more levels and so much more depth to hit with the future episodes. But like for us to have already, in my opinion, have saved some people's lives and have changed the way that they're now navigating and going about life with you, you know, do you think that maybe you're now kind of changing throughout this podcast a little bit? Do you think that maybe not your spiritual beliefs, but your ability to reflect, your ability to look at things from maybe a different perspective, or to kind of look more inward and kind of navigate your emotions a little differently, rather than just having this insane amount of just radical acceptance through everything? Do you maybe sit now and think when you rewatch the episodes, what go like?
Yeah, a little bit more so.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think I tend to be very nonchalant, happy-go-lucky as far as like emotional stuff goes. So
Right.
to even like you asked me earlier about the energy of the room and things like that, like versus watching it online, like yeah, it's definitely different to be in a room when things are getting like very deep and dark, and there's definitely a part of me that's like scared to even get into anything, you know, like to even talk about emotions sometimes can be like off-putting, I guess, for me. Or I'm just usually very like, oh, we'll just think about the good stuff and just go on with the happy-go-lucky kind of side of it. So I definitely see the podcast like forcing me to.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
Is your family closed off to emotion?
No.
So because I know that most people become products of their environment, per se, as cliche as that sounds.
Definitely, it's called schemata. That's an actual like
Schemata,
psychological
okay?
term. Yeah.
Schemata.
Yeah.
So
Super important.
if you come from a family who's not closed off and not, kind of bottling their shit up, where did you come from?
And
And again,
I don't know where that comes from.
So it's not like, and like you said, like you've admitted, everyone has trauma. Everyone has dealt with things, but you don't have traumatic, life-altering kind of events that you've been through to maybe close that door and look at things from that kind of, glass house where you don't want to be touched. So my whole thing is...
Right. No, I could have spoken
Yeah.
to them. They would have been receptive of it. I just was... it's probably a combination of me being shy by nature.
Okay.
And maybe a little bit of middle child syndrome.
Okay.
And not caring that much. I don't know. Like, honestly, something that, and this is more like of a sickness kind of type of thing. So if I was sick, my dad would maybe say to me, like, just don't give it any energy, like just don't give it any energy. Don't think about how sick you are and how bad your stomach hurts and whatnot.
That's a real thing, though.
So
dude.
absolutely.
Yeah,
so
I'm a
I
big
just took it
believer
upon
in that.
myself,
Yeah.
I guess you'd say, to just carry that into like, oh, I'm hurt, or somebody's hurting me, or there's something bad going on. Like, just don't give it any energy. And I think part of that is like shoving things aside. But I also think I have a way better, I don't know if you'd call it better, but I can do that way more than most other
average
people I know,
person.
to just be like,
But it's
happened,
not,
whatever.
But I wouldn't say that you're shoving it aside. I think that you have chosen to
My acceptance switch
There
is
you
a
go,
lot
your radical
higher. Not the
acceptance
forgiveness
switch.
switch necessarily, just the acceptance switch. Like this shit happened, and I think you touched on this last episode as far when I kept saying what's practical, and what stuck with me a little bit was you're like, shit happened, you can't change it.
Yeah.
What happens going forward now is your responsibility. Like you're a victim. Whatever happened before, that's fine. I'll give you that. But now what happens going forward is on you. And I never wanted to bring my storm into any room. Like my way to go about life is just don't bump into anyone's shoulders. Don't cause any issues. Just like keep to yourself, and the right people will come in, and you'll find the right people. And it feels like it's kind of worked.
Well, what you put out is eventually what you're going to wind up getting from either people or the universe. And I'm a big believer in that. And I think this is probably why our lives were so chaotic and problematic for so long, and why your life has been able to be, I don't want to use the word perfect, but such a better and calmer experience, because I don't believe that we get what we ask for. I believe that we get who and what we are ultimately. And I think that when Mike and I were in that, that chaos and finding comfort in the problems, we were just getting more and more and more and more problems. You have always had the ability to kind of just radically accept things, not push them to the side, look at them for what they are, and not try and, over-investigate to the point where you are now deterred from your ultimate divine path. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that you've always gotten from the universe or from the gods or whatever, who and what you are. And like you said in the very first episode, you've had shamans tell you that you have a very clean vibrational energy about you. And I think that is beautifully worded and absolutely spot on,
Thanks.
Yeah, no, hell yeah, dude. Like, absolutely. And again, like, that's not just me thinking it. That's not just Mike thinking it. I know that everyone from your gym, as soon as you started speaking, I've gotten messages from people that I've never spoken to, by the way. So I don't talk to many people from your gym. I will say hello and goodbye, but there's no having conversations the way that I have with Mike or you at all.
Right.
But I've gotten DMs about like, yo, I didn't know Taylor had this much depth. I didn't know he was like this. I didn't know he was like that. So again, I think that you have this way about you, which is just so pure and clean. And whether you realize it or not, even though Mike and I thought you were this dull asshole when we first met you, you have this charismatic way of speaking that draws people in. And
it's like trustworthy too.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
It's like when he says something, you don't have to go Google what he said or research it. Like you're just like, yo, whatever this guy says is definitely
fact.
I try to do right. I try to not. You've probably asked me plenty of questions where I said either I don't know or I'm not sure. Like I'll try to really be as honest as I can be, and I genuinely try to do right.
You are what you are, and you are who you are, and I think that's one of my favorite things about you is that there's no front that you put on. There's no veil that needs to be lifted to, for people to see that there's this hidden, demeanor under what you put out to the public. I think that that's probably, in my opinion, my favorite thing about you. Plus, you're an absolute genius. And I think that's what we're going to wind up tapping into in the next episode is everything that you're about.
Yeah.
Everything that you've been able to not only do for Mike, but also, when we went up to Salem, like I picked your brain apart for how long?
3 hours.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was just not, it was our own little podcast episode in the car.
3 episodes back to back to back.
Yeah, it was 3 episodes back to back to back to back. And I wanted to learn. As soon as you opened your mouth, there was so much I wanted to know. And I think that in the next episode, I think that's really going to affect a lot of different people. I don't think people actually understand who you are, what you know, and what you're capable of doing for the general mass. And I think that that's going to be super important for people to wind up here. I know so, dude. What I kind of want to get across as we, wind down this episode now is there's this quote that I know, and it says that our thoughts dye the color of our soul. And I think in the last 2 episodes, Mike and I have been very clear and very straightforward with the darkness of our souls and how the simple ability to just be present and to understand that we're at fault for a lot of our own behaviors and a lot of our own shit can actually wind up coloring our souls in a much different light. And Mike is a prime example of I've never said this to him. He's my mentor at this point. Like, this is a person that I look up to, and he's been able to become this architect of his own reality, and he created this reality that resonates with his truest, most divine, highest purpose and self. And to me, like, being a part of your life and being your friend and picking your brain apart has probably been one of the biggest and best pleasures that I've ever had as somebody younger than you and new in your life, bro. Like, you're somebody that I've been looking to meet my entire life and have as kind of like this big brother and this person that I can just lean on and talk to. And also, I think that all of us equally just learn from one another at the end of the day. Like, you've asked me questions, I've asked you questions. Like, I'm constantly learning from you, and I really believe that we've been able collectively and in unison to tap into this dimension of change for everybody. And, for me personally, I texted you guys after last episode to just thank you both for allowing me that vulnerability and this space to just come into my own and find purpose and value and be myself. And, like, I just want to tell you both, I love you guys, like, wholeheartedly,
too, yeah.
And I'm super proud that you were able to be emotional, and I knew you were going to be. And I know, again, you were not prepared for most of what I was going to ask, if any at all. And I think that a lot of people asked me after last episode, what do you feel now getting those dark secrets out that only 4 people knew, 2 of which were sitting in the room with me, And I think I'd be interested to know, after you watch this episode back, how you're going to feel. Yeah. I'd be interested to know what you're going to think, how you feel, if there's any weight that maybe is subconsciously lifted. And I think that's going to be a conversation that we wind up tapping into next time. And that's it, guys. So, I appreciate you both. And next episode, we're really going to smack into Taylor and tap into what he's about and pick his brain apart. So
let's do it.
I want him to kind of be prepared for that. All righty?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Later, guys.
Look, will you be absolutely genuine with me? No deception, please. I want you to do something that expresses you without the slightest deception.